Here are a few tips about seed beads. Now, you're probably already familiar with seeds that are round or cylindrical. These are some of the cylindrical ones. These are size 11s. The tiny little guys, you can pour them onto a seed bead or beading mat, and they always land whole side up to make them really easy to thread. But you may not be familiar with some of these different shapes. So these are long megatamas. They're kind of a teardrop shape or oval shape with a hole here at the top that makes them directional. Then you also have these cubes, and I like these. They come in all kinds of different colors. Of course, all of these beads come in so many different colors and finishes. Now these are tila beads, or a tile-shaped bead that has a double hole. So Crystal and I have been talking today about double drilled stones. This is the same type of bead, but in a much smaller version, and these are made from glass. And these are also a cube. These are a larger 4mm cube, and you can use them to create all kinds of beautiful designs. So take a look at some of these bracelets that Leslie Rogalski, one of our regular guests on Beads, Baubles and Jewels, has created. This one is using cylindrical seed beads, and you can see she has a little closure here at the end for buttonhole loop type of piece that clasps it. These are the same type of beads. This is the tile-shaped bead, the double strand, and this is made, all of these are made on a seed bead weaving loom. I also like this one because she's created some dimensionality here with 4mm rounds on top of those cylinders. This one again is creating a pattern using the tiny cylindrical beads. Now check out this one. This one is practically a spiked effect with all of these beads popping up off of the loom work. So when you have all of these different types of shapes, I find it really easy to organize them in these types of trays. This one over here is the one that I use for different shapes of seed beads. So I mix in some rounds and some cylinders, but I also have my long megatamas here. And it makes it very easy to lift them out. You can bring them together by color palette. I also like to label the lid. So you can see on this one that I used my label to put the shape and the color and also the size, because as you're planning your designs, it's helpful to have all of that information right at your fingertips. And if you go ahead and fill out all of your labels in advance, then you can make a copy of this sheet, and especially if you're doing production work or selling your jewelry, you can use this for inventory. So that's a nice way to keep track of what you have, and maybe when you need to restock or get different styles, colors, and that type of thing. Now on this other tray over here, this is all my tiny little containers here of mostly seed beads that are the same shape. So I put cylinders and rounds in here with a few other cubes kind of mixed in by color. I like the way I have my sort of palette, it's all mixed up here, but because it's in rows, you could really sort these out by color and even come up with some different ideas. One of the things I love about Leslie's work is that she has such a great color sense, and I bet it would be really fun to kind of mix up these clear boxes and put some different pops of color in there. Now, when you're working with seed beads, you always want to make sure that you have good lighting. So this is an example of a type of light that uses daylight bulb underneath, because that gives you that natural effect of a bright sunny day. And if I just click it here, you can see it start to come on. This is an LED version, but of course there are lots of other kinds of lights. The reason that you want to use good lighting in your workspace is because it protects your eyes, it prevents eye strain, and it even does good things for your shoulders because you don't have to hunch over to see your work. You also want to always work with thermally bonded beading thread. This comes in different colors, and it comes in several different sizes that you'll choose depending on the size of the holes in your beads. Now you can see here that I already threaded my needle. Depending on what type of beadwork you want to do, there are lots of different kinds of needles. And if you're following a pattern, then that will tell you what type of needle to use. This needle that I have here, I've been using for peyote stitch, and you can see it has a little bend in it. Some people use nylon jaw pliers to straighten this out, but I actually prefer to have a little bit of a bend because when you're getting into tight places on your work, it kind of gives you a hook that you can use to pick it up. And of course, there are all kinds of other needles and tools for using with seed beading, but this is just one example of a needle. This one is a hard English beading needle, size 10 or 12 is kind of a standard for peyote stitch. When you're doing beadwork too, do keep in mind that you can just press your needle down in. And I know for all of you experienced seed beaders out there, you know all about this. But for people who have never tried it before, this can be kind of one of those aha moments where you just use your needle to pick it up. You don't have to pick up every tiny little bead and place it onto the end. So this is a quicker way. And while we're talking about seed beading, let me show you how to create a stopper bead. So what you do is just slide your bead down to the end of your thread and then bring your needle back through the thread, through the same bead. So you're just creating a loop through that last bead, and that helps you have a stopper for any beads that you want to string or weaving that you want to do. You can just pull this tight and you have your little stopper. So these are some ideas for using seed beads.